You are recording, right? Okay. Usually an announcement. Okay, anyway. So, hello everyone and welcome to this March meeting to 2025 of the Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. And I'm actually going to do this by just share screen. Yeah. So, and I've got a presentation here, and there we go. Okay, cool. So, welcome to our March meeting. This is going to be a working meeting. My intention is for us to make a couple of decisions out of here and hopefully also have a vote to basically that we all agree on the plan going forward with our traffic calming plans. But first, let's just do a little quick introduction. So these are the sectors of Patterson Park Neighborhood Association, in case you didn't know. And these are the VPs representing each sector, and most of them, actually all of them are in attendance, either personally or virtually. So over in Patterson Place sector, we have Lindsay Johnson-Graham. And then in West sector is Colin Murphy. He's joining us by Zoom right now. In North sector, this is the first time we've had a sector VP for North sector in as long as I've been around, actually. So Mary Hennigan is here for North sector, and Micaela Perez-Ferraro is representing the South sector. Did I spell your name right? Is it F-E-R-R-A?
I'll fix it.
Hang on a second.
Oh, you don't have to do it right now, or else we're gonna let it go through. It's F-E-R-R-E-R-O, space, no hyphen. Awesome, thank you.
So anyway. So those are your sector VPs, and if you live in one of these sectors and you have something that you would like to talk to PPNA about, those are your first point of contact. The East sector is currently not represented by anybody, so if you live in that sector, you can have a chance to run for the board. Please talk to us, and we will be happy to have you. I am Ernest, I am the president, and our treasurer is Emma, who is sitting over there. And we also have our secretary, Jake. So those are your board of the PPNA, and we'll just keep right on going. So we are here to talk about the DHCD grant, the Department of Housing and Community Development from Maryland. We applied for a grant in 2024 to do a number of things, and they awarded the grant to us, and it's split up as follows: $95,000 for traffic calming, $700 for a traffic camera. I shouldn't have said traffic camera, really just a mobile camera unit, and we will talk about that in a bit, and then $3,000 for a rumble strip. For most of this meeting today, we're going to be talking about that $95,000 number for traffic calming and what we're going to do with it. Now, before we get into our discussion, I have to give you a bunch of background on how all of this works. Let's talk a little bit about the components of an intersection and what happens when you treat it. So this here is a photo of Baltimore and Linwood. You can see Patterson Public House over there on the far corner. And let's just talk over all the components we have here. So first we have what's called the bump out. A bump out is a line drawn at an intersection at a corner to sort of extend the corner out. And bump outs do two things. One is they will increase, or they will decrease the perceived distance that pedestrians have to cross. So I don't know if, no, you don't see my mouse. Okay. People on the Zoom, you might have to just imagine that you know where I'm pointing, but that green section right there, it encourages people to kind of stand here, and it will feel like they don't have to cross so far in order to get over to the other side of the street. It also means that a car coming in will not be able to cut across the corner, and that improves pedestrian safety. So that is the bump out. Now, a bump out is just a line. We also can install flex posts. So you can have a bump out without flex posts. Don't really think you can have flex posts without a bump out, but So each of these components that I'm explaining here, they all cost a certain amount of money. So we'll go over that. So we've got a bump out, we've got the flex post. We have the crosswalk. So sometimes when we're doing a treatment at an intersection, we also freshen up the crosswalk, the white striping. And then there is road paint, and then there is sidewalk paint. So the road paint and the sidewalk paint obviously add visual appeal and also make things stand out more. But it is worth noting that if, we've been talking with Graham Projects, who are the people who actually physically install these things. And if you had an intersection that was just bare, had nothing at all on it, and then you installed bump out, flex posts, paint, and everything, that all by itself is something like $50,000. The reason we were able to do this at Baltimore and Linwood is because Baltimore City Department of Transportation had already installed the bump outs and the flex posts. So we were able to come in later and using grant money from something called the Bernie grant, install this paint. And so I think some of you were actually there when we had Community Day and we brought out all families and helped to paint this. And that was a fun time. So I just want you to understand that, we got $95,000, and that seems like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But if you were to take an intersection and just build it all from ground up, that would cost you $50,000. That would wipe out a huge amount of the grant already. Something you can do is what we did at Baltimore and Lakewood. So at this point, this is the Bernie grant again. So it's not the DHCD grant that we're talking about today. This was the Bernie grant that was applied for by my predecessor, Dave Workmeister. And at the time when we were working on this intersection over here, we realized that we were going to be short of money a little bit. So instead of doing a fancy design at this intersection, what we decided to do was just solid paint. Costs a lot less. And if you live around this intersection, I'll tell you right now, there is nothing that says you can't just go to the Sherwin-Williams store and decide to draw your own design on there if you want to. There's nothing legally or anything that says you can't do that. I would say don't paint anything on the road where the cars travel. That's not safe. But if you and your neighbors want to get together and you think there's a design you can come up with for that blue segment over there, and you think that would be really nice, I would say, make sure you have the consent of everybody who lives around there, just because they're all going to be living with it. But otherwise, go wild. So let's see, what do we got here? Okay, yeah. So when we started the application process for the DHCD grant, the one that we're going to be talking about today, I put out a call and said, does anybody have any intersections they want to work on, or is there any particular problem areas that we want to work on? And a number of people reached out to me, and one of them was Will Vanderveen. I don't know if he's on the Zoom or, well, anyway. And he pointed out that at the intersection here of East and Baltimore, there was an issue where, so with this picture, the shadow is kind of, the shadow kind of makes it hard to see, but the red arrow is pointing at that corner right there. And if there is a car parked right up at that corner, then you can kind of imagine how if you're pulling up to that intersection, it's going to be hard for you to see oncoming traffic coming from the left. So we talked with Graham Projects about this, what can we do, and they proposed doing what's called a daylighting treatment. So this is that same intersection. The south is at the bottom, and so it will be installing bump outs and flex posts in order to prevent cars from parking so close to that intersection. There is already a sign saying no parking beyond this sign, but we all know that doesn't all prevent people. So if you put some flex posts, then maybe that will help. And I have some other ideas for what you can do as well, and we will discuss that. The thing you have to understand about this, though, is that Will reached out to us so early in the process that we were actually able to get a quote and get it all spec'd out and get grant projects to quote, like, how much is this all gonna cost? It turns out to be $35,000. And so we submitted that quote with all the specs and everything. We submitted this picture essentially and some other paperwork to DHCD and got everything all worked out. And that means that we have to do exactly what we said we were gonna do in the grant application. This cannot really be changed. So $95,000, $35,000 of it is committed. We have $60,000 to use now. All right, so another intersection that was brought to our attention, this is Elwood and Baltimore. I think of it as the place where Rise and Rest and High Time are. And we were contacted by, at the time, resident Micaela Perez-Ferraro, who was not a member of the board at the time. And she wanted to do some bump out work here. It's worth talking now about the benefits of bump outs and paint and things like that. So when I told you that when you have an intersection and if you just like install everything, that's $50,000. So if you want to save money, then what you can do is you can install the bump outs and the flex posts, because that's the biggest bang for your buck in terms of slowing cars down, making sure they don't cut across intersections. And if you want to apply paint, volunteers can do that themselves, or you can wait to apply for another grant later to come up with a design and do that. But if your goal is maximum traffic safety, then what you want to prioritize is installing bump outs and flex posts, and you can worry about doing a beautiful paint design later. I love paint designs on intersections, but they are not the most cost-effective way to spend your dollars. So that being said, we talked some more with Graham Projects about this, and they came up with this proposal, which is essentially a bump out on all four corners. So something to keep in mind as you're thinking about this also is that, so this is a corner where direction flows in all four directions, right? So Baltimore and Elwood are both two-way streets. If there was a one-way street, you might make the argument that actually it is not necessary to install bump outs on some of the corners because cars are not going to be cutting across there. Or maybe you still want them because they are necessary, or they help pedestrians to cross the road because it shortens the distance on the crosswalk. These are things for you to consider. Anyway, so while Micaela and, I'm sorry, who was Matt, have been working on this project and have been gathering signatures from neighbors in order to get the consent to do this. And so that is a proposal for Elwood and Baltimore. We then get to another intersection. This is the intersection of Fayette and Luzerne. And this one has a complicated history, because you may notice on this picture that there are already bump outs and flex posts on the southern side of Fayette, but not on the north side. So this was actually a project that was started under the Bernie grant, again, under my predecessor, Dave Workmeister, and they came up with this proposal. And Dave also said, I want to install some flex posts on the north side of the street. And the Department of Transportation at the time said no. As I understand it, it's because of the RAISE project, which, if you don't know the RAISE project, it was about increasing the flow of the buses, the orange and blue line buses. And they had plans to install they had plans to install a bus lane going through the north, on the north side of Fayette. So a bump out installed there would have just been dug up, and the bus lane essentially would have bulldozed over those bump outs. Now, that did not end up happening. The raised project has been changed, and we actually had a whole meeting about that. So if you want to know about that, go watch our recording from 2 months ago. But in any case, so we had this proposal to do this, and as you can see, most of the treatment is going to be happening at the south side. And that still didn't happen. Why? Because M&T Bank, which I think in this picture, they are at the top of the picture, that corner at the top. It turns out they had some work to do with essentially digging up the sidewalk, doing something with the pipes down there, and then repaving over everything. So if we had installed this, it would have been dug up and destroyed. So we decided to wait for that. Baltimore City, being what it is, did not give the permit to M&T's contractor to actually do that work until a long time later. So you see this picture here. We were planning to install this on May 4th. That did not happen, and so we had to wait until the permit was done and the contractor was able to do that work later. And it looks like they will finally be able to do that April of 2025. And so we hope to install this later. But in the meantime, a resident named Khalik came to us and asked, why aren't there any bump outs on the north side? And we explained to him why. And he very persistently insisted that we should still get bump outs on the north side. So with the grant from the previous funds, we can lay down this paint. And with the grant from the current fund, with the money from the current grant, we can also install bump outs and flex posts on the north side. We checked with the Department of Transportation and we said, okay, can we do it now? And they said yes. So we can do that. So a couple slides back, I told you that we have about $60,000 to use. And so one is already committed to Baltimore and East. And as far as installing flex posts, the contractors at Graham Projects have advised me that basically we have enough funding to do 3 more intersections if we're doing just flex posts and bump outs. Elwood and Baltimore would be one of them. Fayette and Luzerne would be one of them. And then there's leftover money. I will say here that the only thing that is set in stone is that intersection at Baltimore and East. The other 2 intersections that I was discussing, technically, you all could decide we want to throw away all of that work that people have already done, and we want to start over with other intersections. And you would have to convince a majority of people here to also vote for that. I think that a couple of people in the room would be very unhappy if you tried to do that, but I'm just laying out, this is procedurally what we have.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do the bump outs take away parking spaces?
No.
No? Okay.
Not allowed to do that. Yeah. Yes, Mary.
I have a question on any of these. How do they repave the whole street if we have bump outs and paint? I mean, what's the lifespan of some of this work?
You raise an excellent point, which is that if some of these get repaved, that may destroy our work. These are not going to be forever projects. Real long-term work is things that the Department of Transportation can do, such as changing streets to be one-way, installing traffic lights, installing traffic cameras,
I raised the question because BGE has been digging up various intersections.
Yes,
And then they only paint the crosswalk on that side of the street that they dug up. They don't take it all the way across, and it looks sloppy.
yes.
And so I would hate to see them take one of these pieces and dig it up and not replace it as it has been.
And all I can tell you is that could happen. And we would have to figure out what to do with that and possibly pay for something to be done about that, or tell the Department of Transportation we need to have this fixed. They have something like a 5-year backlog.
So the city will replace, as far as, from what I understand from them, they will replace the bump outs, they will replace, any, of the, flex posts that they have to remove. The artwork does not get replaced.
The flex posts, if you look at them, they're actually screwed into the ground. So
They
someone
can be
can
unscrewed.
come in with an impact drill and unscrew them, take them out, do whatever they need, and then just screw them back in. Yes,
There's an intersection where there's been an accident every year that I've been here. That's Port and Fayette. So if we would pick a new intersection, maybe we don't, but if we would, I suggest that intersection, especially considering how small it is, it would be so cheap comparatively speaking to some of these other intersections.
If I can just add, so I know I've represented Baltimore and Elwood. I will say, like, totally open for new intersections. Just part of the work is door knocking and getting multiple signatures for the intersection. So that's just something to keep in mind as we think about these intersections. I know I'm even meeting tomorrow with the grant project to talk about the signatures that we did get and talk about the concerns from constituents who were very vocal about bump outs for and again. It's very interesting how people feel about bump outs. I didn't know about that they can't remove parking, for example. So I know that will help a lot of my neighbors who didn't want them because they don't want to lose parking. But that is something as you all are thinking about, like, what other intersections to bring up, who do you know that is going to go around and get those signatures?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I had Chris do the lights on my block.
Yeah.
so yeah, we cannot, it should be said, we might remove illegal parking.
And that's
That's exactly what the
Right.
point is at
Yeah.
Baltimore and East, is there are people who are parking beyond the no parking zone.
Right.
So we're gonna install flex posts and everything to prevent them from doing that, So, both, this is gonna be my last slide for this presentation, and then we'll start talking, okay? So with the leftover money, we could treat another intersection.
Ernest, how much does it cost to do an entire intersection with just the bump out and the flex post?
It's gonna vary based on dimensions.
Okay.
But what Graham Projects has told me is that basically, given, if we decide to do what I have already presented, then what Graham Projects says is that in their experience, we can probably do one more intersection with flex posts and bump outs.
A four corner.
Yes.
Okay.
Or we could decide that for a particular intersection, we want to add some extra paint. Or we could do something else. One thing that occurred to me was that some intersections, what they do is they put like gigantic pots or planters and fill them up with soil and put a plant in them. And so that way you'd have not only flex posts preventing people from going through there, but actually a big honking concrete thing. And those actually are not cheap, but they're a couple $100 as opposed to several $1,000s. And we may decide that that is also a good use of our funds. So I now open the discussion to you. What do we want to do if we do treat another intersection? Which one shall it be? Yes.
I think I'd just like to initiate the conversation with a little bit is that the Baltimore Metropolitan Council does have a crash data map. And what that crash data map demonstrates, I didn't do a full analysis in prep for the meeting, but what that map demonstrates is that Fayette and Highland are the corridors with the most crashes, and particularly the intersections of Fayette and Highland and Baltimore and Highland. And that's true also when you look not just at crashes with cars, but then also vulnerable road users, pedestrians and bicyclists.
So I forgot to add this in, that when we talked to the Department of Transportation and we said, can we do Fayette and Luzerne now, can we put bump outs on the north side? They said yes, and then we said, great, can we also do it somewhere else? We were looking at Fayette and Kenwood, right over here. I think it's over there. Anyway, and they said no. I'm actually not exactly sure why. It's probably something to do with the RAISE project, but it sounds like they will allow us to put those bump outs at Fayette and Luzerne. They don't want us doing anything else at any other intersections on Fayette. Maybe that's part of a larger DOT project. I don't know. Yes.
I know that there's this Vision Zero Quick Build project that Baltimore City DOT is doing, and one of the high-risk corridors they've identified is right here outside the library on Fayette. So I'm not sure what they're planning for there. It could be related to that. On the Streets of Baltimore website, they have some information, and they're going to do some community engagement. I'm not sure exactly where they are with that, but if you look up Vision Zero Quick Builds, might be something that we want to maybe not overlap with or overlap with it. Something to pay attention to.
I'm now no longer sharing my screen, so people on the Zoom, if they are typing into the chat, everybody in the room should be able to now read what they're saying. So I'm not going to repeat what people are saying.
Yeah. Wait, can you read out loud, Ernest, some of them? Maybe more Zoom.
Maybe more than 2020 vision.
Yeah, that is so we can read that.
Okay, well, Colin is saying if funds are available, I would also like to consider possible traffic calming and pedestrian safety measures at Baltimore and Kenwood.
That's where
Car speed through there. Mindy is saying BGE is tearing up the unit block of Baltimore and Southeast, and Mindy is asking, have we looked into the project schedule to ensure we don't install something they will later tear up? So yes, the answer is yes, we do know what BGE's schedule is, and I don't obviously have that off the top of my head, but Grand Projects actually will look to see, okay, is BGE planning to do anything here? If so, we'll wait for them to do that first before we come around behind them. So Chantel was talking about the sinkhole, and Kara was talking about, would it make sense to save some money and replace flex posts when they are damaged? That's a question for all of us to consider. Yes.
When a flex post gets damaged, is that a 311 request, or are we on the hook for replacing a damaged flex post we put in?
If you want it done fast, we have to do it.
Okay.
If you want the city to do it, they will. They will just do it on their own time.
Okay.
Or with lots of bugging of your council member.
All right. Any other thoughts? What we should? Yes.
The flower pots idea, is that something you can only do if you also have a bump out and flex posts, or can you just do flower pots at an intersection for a few $100 a pop? Do like, a ton of intersections as opposed to just one intersection.
That's a really good question. I hadn't thought of that. I think officially the answer is probably no, but also who's going to tell the city? I guess is what I would say.
So, where did those go, the flower pots? They just go in the part that would be a bump out, I guess.
That was my thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Because a flex post, obviously it's there, but it doesn't physically stop a car from going through it.
You have the bump out lines put down, and in the instances where I've seen this implemented, instead of the flex post, you're essentially placing these large concrete pots.
And then if anybody decides to drive through that, they'll be sorry.
Who's responsible for the maintenance of so we don't just have a bunch of maybe people are fine with pots with nothing in them other than soil, but if you wanted flowers, is that something we would have funds for year from year for volunteers to plant?
We would have to figure out where that money comes from, yeah.
Okay.
And, it could be PPNA, it could be people on that block decide, we're gonna take care of it, we're gonna agree to pitch in some amount of money every year. That's up to us to figure out. Yes.
Ernest, can you speak a little bit to whether bus corridors affect placement of flex posts? I noticed at Baltimore and Linwood that there are some corners that don't have flex posts, I assume because of the bus turning, but I'm not sure.
All I can say is that, yes, they probably do have an impact, but anytime we have an intersection that we want to treat, we have to go get a permit from the Department of Transportation to do it. And so if there was some reason that the Department of Transportation knows because of passage of buses or something that we cannot do that, they would tell us. So everything that I have presented so far has been okayed by DOT. If we decide we want to do another intersection, we'll have to ask them. So, obviously I cannot promise now that any intersection we decide will work. Yeah, that's the best answer I can give.
Is there a time limit to the funds? And if so, if the projects you've already had clearance on, is that to our advantage to use the money on those projects? And rather than hold off trying to get the city to agree to an intersection and spend more time?
Yeah, so the funds are supposed to be all spent or committed by December 31, 2025.
Yeah.
Now, when I had a meeting with, I did not individually have a meeting with DHCD, they had a meeting with everybody who received grant money. And as soon as they said this, a bunch of other people raised their hands and said, hey, wait a minute, I'm doing something where the city of Baltimore will have to give me permits. It was actually not traffic calming stuff, it was something else. But regardless, they said the city has to give us permits in order to do what we propose. And that could take some time, and we might miss the December 31 deadline because the city is what it is. And DHCD responded, you can ask for an extension, please meet with us if you think that's going to be necessary, please do that as soon as possible. So I'm hopeful that if we get to that point, they will be reasonable. That's no guarantee, but that's the answer that I've got. But yes, I think the argument could be made that with the projects that we already have, there's already been some work done on it. If we want to make sure that is spent by the deadline, it would be advantageous to work on the projects we already have started. Does anybody want to propose something to do with the remaining money? Shout it out there, otherwise I make the decision. And I really,
What's
yes,
your plan?
I'm joking, but really,
Yeah.
I don't think this should be a decision made by just one guy.
So I do want to address your question about Port and Fayette, and remind me, is there a crosswalk there already? Okay, so where we've run into some issues is that the city has not already placed a pedestrian footway across the street. We will likely not be able to add bump outs or anything like that to support the pedestrian crossing if there's not already a crosswalk there.
Yeah, my interest wasn't so much in the crosswalk, it was just, like he was referring to earlier, the daylighting strategy of just getting people to not park in the intersection.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's good to know.
'Cause
I think that's,
someone does it, someone gets hit every year, and then because how it is,
Yeah.
like 5 cars get damaged, people get injured
Yeah.
every year.
I have the same problem on my street. People are constantly parking in the no stopping area and I can't have any visibility for oncoming traffic. Yeah, I get it.
I will say, we applied for grant funding for also parabolic mirrors to put at intersections, which I think would have been a very effective way to help with that issue. That was not approved. I don't know why. So, anyway.
And you guys have an issue with
Cause I drive through here, excuse me, I'm Haiti from DPW. I work with DOT and I work with BBD on these parking issues as well. Cause when I drive by, I see people parked and no parking. And I'm a 311 freak. So, you know, where I live, I do it, I take pictures of the sign and the car, and I do a 311. And DOT loves to hear that people want to sign up. If there isn't a sign, send a picture in your 311 app and email me the SR number, and I'll send it over to DOT to escalate it. And yeah, I know they're backed up, but when we get the logs in into the agencies, they pay attention when a liaison is sending it, because it's coming directly from the residents, the community. Instead of calling Mark, your councilman, you're dealing with me first before it gets to the escalation part where they don't want to hear it from Mark. And, you know, so if you do have those issues with parking, like I keep taking pictures of those people in the pocket park there. They keep parking there and getting them tickets. You know, so just send me the SR if you have anything for parking, and I'll shoot it over to DOT.
Yeah, and you know who's in a slash right now, the parking enforcement? They're, now that we've transitioned to 24/7, like they are on it,
Yeah.
so report it, really. Like those no stopping signs and people are driving past them, just even those little things are gonna help solve for some of the issues that you're having.
Okay, so I see your hands, let me just, so Lauren asked in the chat, can we save money for repairs, or does the grant have to be spent now? All money must be committed or spent by December 31, unless we get an extension. We certainly cannot just hold on to it to use as a repair fund for future years. I saw hands over in this corner of the room. Yes, sir.
He wants to, what he would like, the Kenwood and Baltimore crossing, I think it was already suggested, a lot of.
Fayette and Kenwood is a no-go, but Kenwood and Baltimore.
Yeah.
My neighbors.
Oh, yeah, so there's a
Okay.
lot of children that cross there to go to the park from the school,
Okay,
and us too, but just, there's a heavy, children and neighborhood used to get to the park, and it's very hard to cross now that the stop paddles are down.
Right.
And getting the stop paddles put back up.
okay, so let me just put our secretary to work. Could you please take note that somebody has suggested Kenwood and Baltimore?
That's actually
Yes.
a similar thing that I was gonna say. I live on Kenwood in Baltimore, just like facing the street, facing the park. And whenever I cross the road, there's a yield sign, but the cars choose to yield, don't choose to yield. It's like generally, you know, like 1 in 4 cars yields. So I was wondering, like, what is the process for putting a stop sign there instead of a yield sign, so they have to stop? There's also like the kids coming from the charter school, like crossing the street there to the park. It's really dangerous.
Right.
Because it's like, it feels like charity when they stop. They're like, oh yeah, you go, like we're so nice to you. Cause I'm like, it's a yield sign, you know, like you have to stop. But,
So signs are controlled by the city, and that's a 311
I have
request.
requested 311 multiple times.
Sure, you're gonna have to lean on your elected officials. I will also say, this may not have been evident in the drawings that I showed you, but it is possible when you're installing bump outs and flex posts to also stick a sign in the middle of a crosswalk that says something like stop or yield.
People have been putting these, I don't know who's been doing it, and if it's someone in this room that's been putting the traffic cones in the middle of that intersection for cars like not to cross over the midline.
Yeah.
They've just been like, and then people have been running over the cones. I don't know where those cones have come from.
I think it's been the school, because we have a similar issue at Montford, and that yield sign that is installed there has been run over so many times that they haven't replaced it in like a year now. To address the question about the stop signs, we can ask. The problem is Baltimore Street itself. and the way the city classifies Baltimore Street.
That's like a main arterial.
Yes, so like, I'm honestly shocked that Butcher's Hill managed to get that funky
Right.
two-way stop sign that everybody gets very confused about. It's very difficult, especially near a stop light, to get stop signs like put in. It took us on Fairmount and Montford like 3 years to get additional stop signs put in. Not even like, you know, it's just additional steps.
Yes.
So, it's a process, and I don't wanna say it will never happen, but the likelihood of it happening as a stop is, probably very low.
Yeah.
Bump out though, like giving those pedestrians more visibility, I think is
Yeah.
more likely.
I just feel like it's really a problem. I feel like someone is gonna get hit.
I almost got hit the other day crossing over to the park, like this little white vehicle got within 2 inches of like just took me out.
Yeah, I've almost gotten hit a lot of times.
Yeah.
Just crossing to the park. So thank you, yeah. I'm just throwing my thing in there for anyone in Baltimore.
Okay,
Because they have it.
Something needs to be done. Yeah.
I'm going to keep this discussion, we have to move along, but I'm gonna keep this discussion going for another, let's say 5 minutes, if anybody has any other thoughts. Yes,
This is more of like an open question conversation, because I think you said we can't do anything else on the Fayette streets, is that what you said? With the intersection?
DOT seems to be saying, yes, the answer is yes. That seems to be what DOT is saying.
Okay, because I live on the 100 block of Lakewood, and Lakewood's this only segment, I think it's West Patterson Park, that's a two-way street segment, and we're like straddled between two schools, and then we have a bodega, Los Primos, and it is brutal living on that street when it comes to traffic. One, it's a two-way segment, so I mean, people go 56 miles an hour, like take your breath away fast as they're bouncing between lights. But we really struggle because like half the contractors in the city get breakfast there, and they will block it, like Monumental Paving. I think I've called Monumental like 3 or 4 times because they'll come in with like 3 large trucks and they'll block half the street. And then Los Primos will double park, and so we've been trapped in before, and we got yelled at for wanting to leave to go to work. And I just don't know what the options are because I know that's not bad. It's like a major street. But it is brutal. We live like 150, like right at the end. We're 3 in from Los Primos. So I don't know what the options are for street calming for that. Other than it's just like it's a tough street for traffic.
So did we commit to where the rumble strips are gonna go?
We proposed Baltimore and Linwood, but I don't think, we did not give enough specifications that, you know, if we decided it was at a different place, we probably could get away with that.
Because that's something like rumble strips to slow down it is truly difficult sometimes because you have double parking, you have people double park on both sides, and then the street becomes impassable.
Right, okay, so I'm hearing a couple of things. So first, there's speeding,
Yes.
right? Okay, so there's speeding. Then there's double parking.
Yeah.
Okay, and approximately how long would you say that double parking is?
I think
happening?
double parking's a problem daily from that 6:30 a.m. until 8 because I take the bus, and so because most times it's not worth trying to get your car out,
Okay,
especially if Monumental's coming in because in the summer they'll have like sets of 3 with their air compressors and everything. I would say that the double parking's a daily issue.
okay, so
Like, very
that
authentically,
is, that is
exactly.
probably a police/parking enforcement,
Yeah.
collaboration, I think, in order to start cracking down on that. Just because if they're not standing for a long enough period,
Mhm.
like, it's hard, like,
Yeah.
you know, they basically need to create a sting situation where they come in and they just start stinging people. So that's one of the ways that we've addressed it. So the speeding is probably something we can maybe address with something more permanent. Are you having trouble, like, you know, you've got crosswalks
Yeah.
there, you know, are you feeling like more visibility for the pedestrians, like at those crosswalks is needed?
I know it's my passion project, but I feel like Lakewood and Fayette is like a trifecta of everything because we also have a crazy amount of kids, like in a good way, but like you got kids going to, I forget what the street is, what the school is on the other side, and then the charter school. So there's kids in all directions, you know, for the morning and afternoon rushes. There are like crosswalk guards, because I see them sometimes, but they're obviously just kind of like value added, because like they go so fast on Fayette. And then, what is it?
William Parker.
Oh yeah, Parker. And so if someone's like working around, like I've almost got hit before, like coming from that bus stop near M&T. So yeah, it's like all of the above. Like any level of traffic calming, I think would greatly benefit that whole area.
So we thought the same thing, which is why in our original application, we actually proposed doing something at Fayette and Kenwood. Not Lakewood, but Fayette and Kenwood. And unfortunately, DOT has said, no, you cannot do that. We have plans for Fayette. I'm not sure exactly what. But
I wonder if it's that Vision Zero quick build, because that's one of their like high risk sites identified as just crossing.
Yeah,
I'm
feedback,
waiting
I think, on
to.
that,
I'm hoping to get
ways.
more details, but what I can tell you is that right now it seems that other than Fayette and Luzerne, intersections at Fayette seem to be a no-go.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
With the Fayette and
Yeah,
Luzerne, I know you mentioned that with any of these projects, we could put like a stop for pedestrian sign. Can we do that at that intersection?
It costs money,
Okay.
but if you can convince everybody else here to vote for it.
I mean, I definitely do think, you know, I mean, shoot, I want this to be done at every intersection, you know, so, I mean, we shouldn't even be spending our own money, it should be coming, you know, from the state, but,
Well, it is coming from the state, but
yeah,
I know what you mean.
directly, you know what I mean, not to.
Yes.
But,
So
yeah.
I think for the Fayette stuff, because I was 100 blocks up from McMillan, maybe Livable Streets Coalition, because I was doing some work with them, and they're focusing mostly on Fayette and Orleans.
Okay.
The traffic calming, like, you know, trying to,
Yeah.
trying to like slow that down.
Yeah.
Can you make sure
Okay.
to call Cindy and Rex?
Yep. Cindy, you've got your hands up.
Hi, everyone. So I am actually the constituent services manager for the District 1 City Council. I just couldn't be there today in person, but I've included a link in the chat, but I was wondering if it was okay for me to share my screen so that they can see the link that I've kind of shared in the Zoom chat about the Towards Vision Zero. And maybe that'll help with
I
some
made a post. I think that will allow you to share your screen. So try it now.
can you guys see my screen?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, so here's actually a map. So if you just kind of go to either streetsofbaltimore.com towards zero quick build. So here it's a cool map that's showing you sort of what like DOT is currently working on in terms of that. So as we were kind of talking, I know there was this, I picked at this point, which is I think the Lakewood and Fayette, I believe. The William Packer School, I think, is the school the person was referring to. But yeah, I mean, it tells you here like some of like, I guess, well, here's just sort of like a map of 311s that have also been put in for the area. So it kind of gives you like, I guess, an update on what they're doing. But if you visit the, I'm sorry, it's the Quick Build Projects 2025. It'll give you a nice rundown of what they're doing in the East Baltimore area since it affects everyone in this meeting. So I'll stop sharing my screen now, but yeah, feel free to look into that, I guess, after this meeting also. I'm not sure how soon you guys have to decide on the streets. On like setting what streets you guys want to do stuff for, but either way, still, it's great information. And it'll help with what to look forward to, hopefully.
Right. So I think that this is a conversation where we can gather more feedback, but I do want to be sensitive to the time and move us along. So I'm going to put it this way. I have described to you some work that is already underway. Now, Baltimore and East, as I said, that's already committed. We're gonna do exactly what we said we were gonna do. We now have these proposed treatments at Baltimore and Elwood, and then also at Fayette and Luzerne. And that's going to include installing bump outs to make sure there are bump outs on all corners. Fayette and Luzerne already has a paint project coming in there from a previous grant. We're hoping to do that soon. But we will, in addition to that, install bump outs on the north side. At Baltimore and Elwood, we are going to be putting in bump outs on all 4 corners. Before we get into what to do with the leftover money, is everybody okay with those existing projects going forward? Is there anybody who is against it? Okay, then I'm gonna take that as authorization to move forward with those projects. All right, as for what to do with the remaining money, we kind of have a couple of ideas, and I understand it's gonna be a little bit hard because we don't know like how much things cost and also what DOT is going to allow or anything, but let's do this. So we have a proposal to do bump outs at Kenwood in Baltimore, right? Are there other intersections you would like us to look into? I think the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna just look at everything that people propose, and then we'll see what is workable. And then at a future meeting, we'll just have a real quick discussion about, okay, like here's what's allowed, here's what's not allowed, what do we wanna do? So Kenwood in Baltimore is one proposal. What else have we got?
I think that Lakewood corridor that they're talking about.
Okay. Jake, would you mind taking these down? Yeah, you got it, okay. And then we also have Fayette and Port, right? Okay, any others? Yes,
Baltimore and Highland.
Baltimore and Highland, okay.
I think, so that's half of that is outside of our sector.
Mhm.
So, we may need to coordinate with another, neighborhood
With Highland Town
association.
Neighborhood Association, yeah.
To complete that. I'm not sure we can use the current funding for that, but we could potentially raise in coalition with them to address that.
Okay, any others? Yes,
I was supposed to say, Bernie should be coming up in June, so maybe the next meeting could be like a compilation of all the intersections you'd like to apply for the next round.
Right.
In time for the next application of Bernie. Then you can spend all the money this time around.
absolutely, yeah.
These intersections that already you approved for.
Now, one thing I'm gonna raise for you guys is that this is my last year as president of the neighborhood association. This is my 4th term. So if anybody wants to apply for Bernie, I'm happy to help out. I'm happy to even write the application. I just won't be there to implement it. But if anybody's wanting to be a neighborhood association president and do some good in the neighborhood, now's your time to think about running. I'm just gonna put that out there. All right. What did we think about, so I didn't hear anybody saying that I really want to lay down paint on a particular intersection.
I think somebody put something on the chat.
Yep, that disappeared for some reason. Replacing missing flex posts, okay. And then also sturdier stop for pedestrian paddles. So with the caveat again that we have to spend the money by the end of the year and we can't just hold on to it for, future repairs. I guess my question to you all is like, where does this sit in priority? If we have money and we can spend it either on an intersection or we can spend it on replacing flex posts. Maybe this is not a question that you can answer now, but I just want you to be thinking about this. You could be in a situation where you only have enough money to do one of them. And so you need to think about what you want to do. Yes.
I don't know if this is even an option. I don't know the logistics of replacing the flex posts, but is it something that we could like buy a few of them now extra so that we use the money and then if we need to replace them, then we can replace them in the future?
Probably, yes.
We can probably also, if like Graham Projects is gonna do the replacements, we can just prepay.
Right.
Right.
Do we know how many flex posts are missing? I know Montford is missing.
There's probably a few already
Yeah.
saying that we could replace and then have a small supply ready for the future, 'cause it's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
I will say you would have to figure out where to store them because we do not have a
We do not
storage
have
unit.
storage
So.
anymore. Yeah, so maybe.
Currently, the storage unit is my basement.
I will speak to the pedestrian paddles. Those are not, those are city implemented. So I tend to agree that they're not very sturdy, but they are meant to be knocked over. They just get knocked over quite a lot and then don't get replaced. So unfortunately, that's not really something that we can be a part of replacing. That's the city.
Okay. I'm going to call on Cindy and then on you, and you're going to have the last word. Cindy, go ahead.
Hey everyone. So I've been looking into these the in-street paddles because constituents have reached out in different areas as well. So given a week, I've heard that they're in the process of awarding a contract to a new supplier for these in-street pedestrian paddle signs. So, and they were out of stock. So that's the update I have on that. But I will make sure to follow up on these areas that had them. So
We have.
Okay, sir.
So the money that's left over, does that have to be used towards the roads and the flex posts, or can it go to, let's say, street lights? Or does it have to be allocated only towards the flex post and?
So we can ask DHCD for a modification of the grant. And I guess, whether they will allow it or not, I think it's a matter of like, well, if we just said we want to do something that is still traffic calming but isn't exactly what we specified, they would probably be okay with that.
Okay.
Doing something like lighting, we would have to make the argument that like, well, this still serves the same purpose or, is still essentially the same project. And they may buy that, they may not.
Right, but the money is basically right towards the safety and flex post and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are grants though, if you are interested in lighting, the Love Your Block Be More grant, they award up to $1,500.
So if you want string lighting on your block, we have done lots of that on many different blocks. So come talk to me a little afterwards and we'll talk you through the process. We've done this on lots and lots of blocks.
Yeah.
We know the process. We'll talk you through it. Okay. So I'm going to, well, actually, I don't need to share the PowerPoint for, you know what, I'm gonna share it real quick. Oops, not that one, there we go. So we're gonna move on to the next thing, which is just to talk a little bit about, so, okay. Way back here, right, I said we also have $700 for, not traffic cameras, just really mobile camera units. And we are looking at this model right here. It is a 4G enabled camera. We would have to buy a plan for it, but that's fine. And we have figured out that actually with $700, we could buy 2 of these plus a wireless plan for it. Unless somebody really, really wants a different model of camera, we're pretty sure we want this one. Now, these are mobile cameras. They can be installed in places, and the idea is that instead of, you know, security cameras that are attached to some person's property and are static, if we hear that there's lots of dumping going on at a particular place, we can set up a camera there. By the way, this camera is solar powered, so you can see there's a solar panel there. Pretty neat. So this is what we are proposing to do. Now, the question for you is, how are we going to decide how to deploy this thing? And I want us to really think through the nuts and bolts here, because we could just say like, well, we'll open it up to all requests. What will happen then is that we will get flooded with emails from people saying we want it here, we want it here, and how are we going to decide that? Who is going to decide that? I know I actually personally do not want to be the one deciding it just because I have a lot of other duties, but if there's somebody who wants to step up and be a part of the process,
That'll be me.
maybe it'll be her. I'm sure she would not say no to help. But yeah, so how are we going to decide where we deploy these cameras?
So Ernest, how many cameras, if you buy these two, how many cameras would you have?
So this will be, I think we can get, out of the money that we have, I think we can get 2 of them.
Yeah, but in addition to, what's the ones you currently have?
We don't have any currently.
Oh, I thought you had.
No, this is like a brand new program. We decided to go after some of these because first of all, this is a new product. This is the first time we've been able to like guerrilla mount cameras in places where there are problems.
Okay.
One of which being Clinton and Fairmount. If anybody who has been on one of the safety walks before knows that that location is a hotspot for illegal dumping and all kinds of things. So we've had a lot of requests from residents to place cameras there. The UFI app is great because it lets us do some things that we didn't have an opportunity to do in the past, and that is you can add an admin and you can add and remove people that you want to share the camera footage with. So I personally don't want to have to be watching cameras all the time, but if you live in that area where that's being impacted, you know when somebody has shown up and dumped a bunch of stuff everywhere, right? You can be given permission to view that footage. You can find out who is responsible. You can then escalate that to the appropriate parties. So as we move things around, we can kind of give sharing access via this app, which means that neighbors can monitor it, and I don't have Ernest and I don't have to do that work.
Yes.
Question, what was the purpose for the cameras described in the grant application?
To deal with trash and illegal dumping. Now, if it happens to catch a crime in progress or something, of course, that it will be used for that as well. But primarily, we described it as a way to improve the environment. Is there anybody who would like to be involved in deciding where we deploy the cameras? This is your chance to, yes? Okay. Is that because you have a comment or you're saying yes, you would like to be involved?
Both. Yes, because I live in Fairmont and usually it's like 4 other people from Fairmont here, but tonight it's not. Right. But where I live at in that alley, they come in 311, they come and get it, but a week later, it's more mattresses again. I'm like, are they just buying bad mattresses? I've never seen so many people put mattresses out. Like, buy a better mattress. Just stop. It's ridiculous. So, yes, probably I could. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So what is your alley? What is that intersection?
Oh, I've been living there for a year and a half now, and I couldn't even tell you. I know I'm on Fairmont, and I don't know. I don't know.
All right. We'll
Okay.
let's talk after
I'll
the meeting.
circle back with you.
Yeah, I don't know the street that's on the opposite side of it.
So the subscription would be paid for by our own funds. Now, we can pay for some of it with the DHCD funds, and that will, we think, get us about a year. After that, donations from people like you. Yes.
I have a question about, sorry I keep talking this meeting, but how much cameras help with preventing things from happening? Because I know that there's been a lot of people who have Ring cameras, who've seen people steal things, seen things happen. Like, what are we thinking that these cameras will help, like, prevent or mitigate? Like, or maybe it's just in the talking to the police afterwards and getting like convictions. What is the like picture in here of what the cameras are going to do?
Lindsay's got an answer to that.
Yes, I thank you for that question. I appreciate that question. Okay. So the cameras provide some prevention measures, but mostly they give us the ability to identify and often later, charge and arrest the individuals responsible for committing certain acts. This camera that Ernest just had up is actually able to read license plates.
Yeah.
So in your example, right, oftentimes what's happening is a pickup truck, they're doing small hauler, jobs. They don't want to pay the fee to take that junk to the dump because they have to pay a fee. So they find an alley somewhere, they dump that stuff, they collect their fee from whoever they're doing the job for, and then move on to the next thing. So what we have found is that the cameras allow us to identify those vehicles, which then leads us back to those folks for this dumping purpose. I work very closely with the friend, Arch McCone, probably a lot of people know. We are very entrenched in trying to get, to like follow through the entire process of not just capturing the folks who are responsible for doing the things on camera, but ensuring that police respond. They respond intelligently, and that neighbors follow through with charging, the folks responsible, or the city, takes further action, right? So we're from like point A to point B, and what we have found is that these cameras are invaluable to identifying the folks who are responsible, and then later we're getting them convicted. We recently used one of these cameras to identify, there's a local business person who is trying to create a restaurant in our neighborhood, and they're still waiting on the financing, but some folks broke into one of his properties that's going to be part of this. And they changed the locks on the doors. Right. They did, yeah. And
They were
so,
going for squatters' rights.
yeah, so they did
This
that.
happened in Patterson neighborhoods?
Yeah. Yeah, this happens more often than you think. People are breaking into houses and changing the locks, or they might present a fake lease. It's a whole other thing. So what we were able to do is set up this camera, and we, because police had been going, but when police finally showed up, the folks weren't there anymore. So they would kind of come and go, and so we put up the camera to find out when they came back. And then we worked with police to ensure that when they were there, police showed up, the owner was there to get them out, and then we secured the property. So the cameras are really helpful in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Do we need signage posted with the cameras?
No, because they'll be located on private, not private property, public property. There's no expectation of privacy on public property. It's like, if somebody's doing something bad in Patterson Park, film away. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
Question.
I'm gonna give you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, how are the cameras actually set up?
Yeah.
And can we set them up in a way so they're not stolen or vandalized?
So there are always enterprising people, but yes, there is a way to do that. We also have some other methods for tracking where the camera has ended up if it does get taken. So there are preventative measures that we can take. Typically, we're mounting it to a height where people can't just reach up, right, and tamper with it. That being said, there have been some enterprising individuals who will move off with the camera. So we have refined our ways of mounting it and while also being able to move it in order to prevent that from happening. Yeah.
Did someone else have a question?
I got a question, because I know she's from DPW.
Right. Oh.
So
yeah.
I'm just curious, when it comes to trash, because I think the people who don't have trash cans, like they try to put their trash out on trash day. They put it in bags, but the trash people, when they come, if it's not a trash can, they don't take it. So is there a way, I don't know the name of the street, but I can definitely email it to you. There's a whole row of houses. I don't think they have trash cans. And they put the bags out there, but the trash people, when they come, they don't lift those bags up. They just take what's in the trash
Do you know
can.
your neighbors? Do you
I don't know
who they
those
are?
particular neighbors, no. Because those particular, they're not on my street.
Can you give me addresses?
Oh, I definitely can,
Yeah.
yeah, once I go home and look at the street name.
No, you know the addresses I have a form they can fill out, when it comes to that instance.
Okay.
The best thing to do is call 311. You have to fill out a form. You have to return it within 5 days. And you have to get the SR number and you have to return it and make sure that somebody calls you back from 311 saying when your can will be replaced.
Oh, so now,
So
as far as,
that's one instance.
okay,
But if the other instance is that, they can send me the SR number and I can reach out to, solid waste and see if we have any cans left over. But if they don't have cans and they don't wanna get any from the city, they can buy their own cans. Call 311, say I have my own can, I wrote my number on it,
okay.
I need my garbage picked up from this can now because there are no cans with the city. I found that that's an issue sometimes because somebody is stealing cans and selling them somewhere. Okay, it's just utterly lovely, I just love it. And we don't have cans because we got those cans from a grant. So we didn't allot for that many stolen cans, to be taken and resold.
I've lived there
So-
a year and a half, and I still don't have a trash can.
So you guys, I'll give you my email at the end.
Okay.
I would need you to call 311. They're
I
gonna
don't
send you a form
Yeah.
through your email.
Okay.
Immediately fill it out and return it. Because you got 5 days. You don't do the form, you cut off.
So I'm sorry, but if you have other questions for Haiti, I'm gonna ask you to actually speak to her or get her card and speak to her later because we do have to move along.
Okay.
They close this library at 8 and they will literally just shut the lights off on us. And we do have one more agenda item, which is Adrian from the library is here to talk about a resource that is available to us.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name's Adrian Ciano, I work with Harrison Park Library. I am what they call a digital navigator, so there's 9 of us, we were funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA Act. And what we do is, we actually have free computer classes here. I have some schedules over here with them, with my card. So like if people wanna come in, you can sign up, there's different ways to sign up, they're on the paper. They wanna come in to learn like, how do I use a keyboard? What's a monitor? How do I create an email? How do I protect myself from scams? How do I write a resume? How do I block this person on whatever social media? Been doing a lot of job searching with people. So one thing they can do is they can make an appointment with me, or they'll come in and just see me. But like most classes are generally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. The rounds of classes I have, so like tomorrow I have a class about keyboarding. Wednesday I have a class about like, this is a keyboard, this is the monitor, this is how we make a Gmail account, things like that. So I have my business card over here, some of the class lists of what we have for March and April. If you don't see something here, there's also 8 other locations where they have us. So I'm also here to help people on the computers. Today we applied for Medicaid, we did some job searching. We helped a student learn how to search using keywords. So there is digital stuff here. There are free computer classes here. You don't need a device. We provide that. So please take some stuff, and we're just trying to get the word out more. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
I like your ideas too.
Okay. I can give us 5 minutes for community announcements. Was that a question or an
I had a
announcement?
quick question. but.
Yeah, okay.
I know last year someone, I don't know if it was through you, but someone here announced they got funding for a gate to put up like an alley gate. Do you
Okay.
recall who that
That was
is?
Robin.
Robin Lewis, yeah.
Robin, okay, so, okay.
I think,
How does that work?
Don Meyer, they just got one recently. Yeah, Don Meyer did one recently that they just.
It's a long process, and I can tell you about it after the meeting if you're interested.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Mayor.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming out, and thank you for your consideration on our traffic calming plans. And I will report back as far as the other proposed intersections about what we can do, and we will make further decisions as we move forward. So with that, I will call an end to the meeting, and we gotta get out of here by 8. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Congratulations again on getting a grant.
Okay.